Welcome to Outcomes, the healthcare and biopharma marketing podcast, where marketing leaders discuss the most effective strategies for the health sectors, coming from a digital-first, AI-powered perspective. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of our Outcomes podcast. Today, I have here with me as our guest, Christopher Carlson. Christopher is an SEO strategist at emagineHealth. And one of the topics that we've been talking about a lot lately across various competencies that we have here at Emagine are just the nuances that come along with marketing in the healthcare and biopharma industry. We all know that it's a very nuanced, it's a very regulated, it's a very unique industry, and all of those facets are constantly evolving. And then when you combine that with the fact that digital in general and technology and marketing strategies are always evolving, it's a constantly moving target. And so over in SEO here, Christopher works with a variety of our healthcare and pharma clients. And so I just wanted to chat with him here today about some of the various considerations or challenges that he experiences with those types of clients and ways that he's able to navigate them and overcome them and so forth. So let's jump right in, Christopher. First of all, thanks for joining.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Bill. Nice to be here.
Yeah. And so, just take over. What are some SEO challenges that you experience with drug sites specifically?
Specifically, drug sites, they are their own entity. They have different restrictions than other sites, so you essentially need to take those into account and work with them. It's a different sort of optimization. So essentially, when you have a drug site, the challenges are probably the biggest one is making sure you are square with the FDA guidelines for advertising on the internet. One of the most challenging things there is the only document that speaks directly to the internet was developed specifically for advertising through social networks. And it's from 2014. And that's so the web now and compared to 2014 is light years. So you're navigating
it's like a century ago in internet years.
It's like prehistoric. Yeah. So there's that to consider, and you have to follow those guidelines because they're the only thing out there that you can rely on. Also, when you're talking about drugs, there's always a legal process with all your content. So there are things you can't say because you don't want to open yourself up to litigation. So there's a legal review. Another challenge with content, and I should just back up a little bit and say content is huge in getting a site to have relevance in the eyes of Google and rank. So it's we say in SEO, and we've said it for years, and it continues to be true that content is king. So it's something that we work on diligently with every website. The other challenge with content is a lot of times drug sites are a brand new drug, and the content is focused on the drug itself. And it could be that a lot of people, patients and even healthcare providers don't know about it.
Right.
So, that's a challenge because people aren't necessarily looking for you. So you have to navigate that. Another challenge is a lot of them are brand new sites, and Google puts more relevance on sites that have established a history. And drug sites and health-related sites undergo a little extra scrutiny because they're what's called your money or your life sites. And that's going to be anything health-related, legal, and financial. That's potentially Google wants to see that you're an authority and that what you're saying can help people. So that's another thing that you have to take into account. That's another challenge. So those are the big ones when it comes to working with a drug site right out of the gate.
Yeah, and I was having this conversation with Kristen and Michelle here, who work on our paid team. And, like you say, the document that you referred to, if you even bother referring to it, is from 2014. And even then, one of the challenges in marketing in this industry is we don't have any hard rule book that we could consult with. Um, it's interpretation, it's
Exactly.
experimentation, it's hoping and praying you don't get slapped on the wrist for doing something um, that they view as nefarious versus just a little mistake and doing something the way they don't ideally want it. So it makes it really challenging. But I also think that it emphasizes the importance of experience in doing this because that's ultimately what we rely on. Again, we can't open up our rule book; we don't have it. But after so many years of working with so many clients in these sectors and realizing what works, what's allowed, and we lean a lot on our clients' regulatory affairs people because they have, we're not attorneys here, we're not regulatory experts. We know a lot from experience, but we have to lean on them a lot because that's their job. So we learn a lot from them, and that kind of helps shape what we'll do in the future for other clients as well. Sometimes they really help us structure our guidelines, and then, like you said, I've been talking a lot in much of our content here about patient centricity lately, audience centricity in general, and it seems like such an obvious concept. It seems like something that any marketer would subscribe to and be doing. But like you said, so many drug sites, so many even, let's say, pharmaceutical corporate websites, healthcare sites, they're about them. They're about healthcare. It's about the organization and all their capabilities. A drug, it's about their brand name and the brilliant science that went into it. And ultimately, the patient or caregiver who's out there looking for something to help them with their problem, make them healthy, can't find what they need because the content has not been structured toward them. So it's a big problem, but it's also a big opportunity. It's a big opportunity for everybody to do this stuff better. First of all, content's more engaging, but as you're gonna talk about more here today, it'll also be found more by the people that are searching in Google. So
Yeah.
with that, what are some of the ways that you get around this myriad of challenges, Christopher?
Some of the big ones are we want to create more content within these restrictions, within these considerations. And there are definitely ways to do that that work really well. They work with users and they make it more attractive to Google and the other search engines. But as you're able to do more market research and that type of thing, figure out ways to include it on the site. So, like if you start getting, patient testimonials, for example, those are great for the site. Finding out that patients have specific questions, an FAQs page can do a lot, and Google likes those. It likes that helpful content, and
Mm-hmm.
you're establishing yourself as more of an authority. Video is great, and you can
Yep.
Google loves video. So just figure out ways within this structure to get more content on the site, and there's actually a lot you can do. The other huge thing is realize, even though you're super excited about your drug, as you said, you're not really understanding what the patient is looking for, which is the disease itself.
Yep.
So take the time to write about um, the condition. And one of the restrictions is you can't really say this cures this. That's too
Yep.
huge of a claim. But
Yep.
you can talk about, without saying that necessarily, you can talk about the condition itself, um, which is what people are going to be looking for because they don't know your drug name yet.
Yep.
Um, the other thing is to consider when you're doing that, is that if you're too general, you are competing with WebMD. You're competing with these huge sites that Google loves. So what you want to do is, say if someone has like lupus. I had a good friend who had lupus when we were kids. If you like this drug, helps lupus overall. Chances are the drug won't do that. But what you want to do is do your keyword research and find out how many people are searching for, you know, lupus that has affected the kidneys or that type of thing, or specific. So you're
Mm-hmm.
looking more at the specific, which is what people and healthcare providers will be looking for. And then they'll see that your drug comes up and they'll make that association and they'll click through to your site. Maybe they'll be
Sure.
like, oh, I want more information. I want to talk to
Yeah.
my healthcare provider about this. I want to prescribe this,
Yep.
um, that type of thing. When you're developing this content, you always have to schedule it. It's never going to be a blog or anything like that where you're putting
Yep.
on content like multiple times a week. You have to schedule it out and understand that it's got to go through that process,
Yep.
that legal process before it goes on the site. The other thing is you're going to want to, you might be fighting for um, space just based on your brand name. Once people understand your brand name, your pharmaceutical company site is going to have talked about that already. They're going to have put out a press release that other outlets will pick up, and so your brand
Mm-hmm.
name, you could have a challenge. You might be, way down the line as far as publicly talking about your brand name on the web. So that's
Yep.
another challenge, is just, and it relies on putting out good content and establishing yourself as the site to go to when someone searches for that specific brand name.
Yeah.
And then the other thing you can do is, because you're linked to from a number of sites, especially your overall pharmaceutical company corporate site, and a lot of, this isn't something that you'd think about right off the bat, but make sure that you have a link coming from that well-established site um, to your site, and make sure
Yeah.
it says your drug name in the anchor text. So you're getting essentially an endorsement from a site that Google loves, and you're a new site, and it'll help you build that relevance and that authority.
Yeah. That's good stuff. We talk to clients all the time about their competition online, and we have to make very clear that that is not the word competition is not how you usually think of it. We don't
Exactly.
mean your direct competitors in business. Online, your competition could be your own corporate website. Your competition could be a press release about your drug. It's not your competitive businesses necessarily. It's every
Right.
page and every piece of content that you're competing with on Google. And then the other thing I want to, just going back to your previous points here, I am not an SEO expert. So I tend to oversimplify things, but I think it's very important. I mean, ultimately, Google wants Google wants to provide what users need. Okay. So the more successful Google is at doing that, the more people will return to Google, keep using it, the more advertising they can sell. It's a simple concept. So Google cares about providing users with what they want. So, like all marketing, and anybody who listens to or reads any of my content is going to get sick of me saying this about every single marketing tactic there is. But at the end of the day, it's about your audience's journey. It's about those personas, and it's about the things that they're looking for. So when it comes to drugs, like you said, Christopher, you said they might not be looking for that brand name drug. They might be looking for information about the disease. Well, let's go even one step back from that, where it's a patient just researching symptoms. They haven't even gone to the doctor yet. They haven't been diagnosed with anything yet. Or let's suppose it's rare disease where no one can diagnose them. I just read recently that someone it was a really interesting article that a mother ended up diagnosing her son's very rare disease through ChatGPT, that many doctors were not able to diagnose, but through her entering symptoms endlessly and interacting with ChatGPT, it it determined what their disease was. I mean, it's going off on a little tangent there, but the point is that there's the people out there who are desperate for educational, informative information, disease awareness sites, sites that speak to the symptoms that someone's experiencing. And then very strategically, you lead them over to your product and you do your marketing. but it's all about understanding their journey first and developing the content that's going to attract them based on their journey or that caregiver that's doing the research for them. All right, so Christopher, let's turn to a little bit more of a technical topic now. In addition to some of the other strategies that you've already mentioned here, what are some other avenues that companies can explore, from an SEO standpoint, but again, specifically for drug sites?
Yeah. What we like to look at, and you essentially have to understand how Google understands the web. And the way it does that is it breaks it down into entities, and different essentially, characters on the web. But entities is huge. And what entities are is, your drug itself, that's an entity.
Yep.
The pharmaceutical corporation that developed the drug, another entity. And
Mm-hmm.
because you're a new entity on the web, you want to help Google understand that, you're this entity that it just was introduced to, but you are connected with all these established entities. So Google can see, hey, we've known this site for a long time. We understand this pharmaceutical company, brand new drug, brand new site, but it's connected to this entity. And the way we can do that is through what's called schema markup.
Okay.
And what that is it's code that lives in the actual header of the site. People don't see it. Search engines see it. It's a protocol they developed. The search engines got together, developed to understand the web. And what you can do with schema is, you'll see a lot of basic schema on a site. Like, this is a web page, this is a website. There's so much more you can do. You can identify the web page as a medical web page. That's the start. So Google's already seeing it's medical. You can identify the audience. So are you talking to direct to consumer? Are you talking to the patients themselves? Who's the audience? Patients. If you're talking to healthcare providers, who's the audience? Healthcare providers. That's a different level of conversation. It's a different type of conversation,
Mm-hmm.
completely different audience. You can identify that through schema. And then you connect it with the drug itself. And Google understands a drug as a product. But you can enter so many variables and help Google understand this drug, like not the drug name, the brand name, but also, what are some of the warnings that go along with it? What's the dosage you
Mm-hmm.
get? All these different aspects you can tell Google before they jump into the content on the page. It helps them understand. You can also, because the company is another huge entity, you can identify, not only is this a medical web page connected to a medical website about this drug, but the web page was produced by a corporation, a manufacturer, and you can list a lot of entities for that corporation. So you've got the corporation itself, but then you've got notable people who work for that corporation, and what are they connected to? Are they connected to journals? Are they connected to um, a different, an educational organization, a medical practice? You can make all these connections with schema, and it helps Google, understand the basis of the drug and where it came from. And that can be huge in building authority and helping Google know that your drug site is a huge is beneficial to the people who have this condition. Um,
It's kind of a
the other,
complex tactic, right? I think it's a programming language, right? And it's different from the most of us laymen who are not SEO people know that behind a website you've got your title tags, you've got your meta description, keyword. I don't even know if keywords tags still exist, but this is different from those, correct? And it's more
yes,
technical. Yeah.
yes. More technical. It's something I've found that you keep finding new things, so you can build on it and build on it and build on it, while maintaining the basic structure and having it work. Another great thing that Schema can do is, once you've identified the drug as a product, and maybe there's video, you've identified a video. Um, maybe there are images, your logo, that type of thing. It's going to feed into what Google calls rich results. And what rich results are is when you do a search and you see the normal, the title tag that's a link to the site, the meta description, which is a little blurb, there might be a video up there. There might be a list of questions underneath your listing, your link. There could be an image.
Yeah.
Schema can help Google understand that it should pull those results, and it not only increases the attractiveness, the ways someone can interact with your site, but it takes up more real estate. So
Yeah.
rather than this little thing, you've got this, and we want to act to occupy as much of that real estate as possible, and essentially, not share it.
Yeah, I mean, you could really have the trifecta in that you're showing up on the first page with a snippet, you're showing up with an organic result, and you're doing some paid advertising on that same page, right? I mean, that's the
Oh yeah.
perfect storm.
Yeah, definitely. And as we move into more AI powered search, we've got to understand what AI powered search is looking for. And from what we've seen, it's these entities, it's how it's going to understand. So we want to be present for that as well, because it's going to become more and more prevalent. It's already huge. It's just going to get used more and more. It's going to become more sophisticated. We want to get in on the building blocks and make sure we're providing not only what Google search wants, but what Google AI powered search wants.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think admittedly we're telling everybody that, nobody really knows exactly what the search world is going to look like in 6 months, 12 months, let alone a few years, but we all know it's going to be different.
Yeah.
So as digital marketers, I know we, but specifically you and the rest of your team over in SEO are just staying on top of it all the time because again, no one really knows how this is all going to shake out, and it's not like it's just going to be resolved one day. We're just going to see this stuff continue to evolve and change, I think, forever.
Yeah.
Um, you know, which makes life a little bit interesting. Any
It
other,
does.
you know, is any other specific like technical tactics and such that you wanted to mention, Christopher?
You definitely want to look for everything you can, especially given that you're going to be building content very slowly. So, seemingly minor things like image alt text, which is
Mm-hmm.
what Google reads it, but it also improves accessibility, which is huge. So people who are visually impaired, when they come to a site, they can't
Yep.
see, their reader can't see an image, you know, rather than providing them with what would essentially be a blank space, the alt
Yep.
text is what the reader is going to read. So you want to use that. You want to be as clear as possible as to what the image is, but it also provides, sites about your drug. So if you show man meeting with doctor with stethoscope, that type of thing, that's what the image is. But,
Mm-hmm.
you know, hyphen drug name,
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
not um, being spammy. You are explaining what the image is about and why it's there.
Yeah.
So any little tactic you want to look at all the technical issues, is
Yep.
the way the site's set up or coded, presenting any impediments to Google crawling the site. You want to address all that, have a perfectly clean site for indexing, and then do everything you can. Just these minor things, make sure everything is on point as you're working to build the site.
Yeah. And one, the image alt text, I think, is such an example of just something that's really easy, that is not scientific, and yet neglected, so easily neglected, because we all know you build a website, and even on a relatively small website, you could have dozens, if not hundreds, if not thousands of images on a website. And for somebody to have strategically named each of those, it's very unlikely, it's very rare. But if you're a marketer or you're a website owner and you've got some extra time and you just feel like doing some tedious work in your off hours, or hire an intern to do it, just rename those images like crazy, because it does matter. I learned over on the YouTube side of things, that YouTube's got their description, they've got their title of a video, but apparently the name of the video file that you upload actually is as, if not more important than some of those other things that you do and some of the tags they allowed you to do. So these, and again, that's not rocket science,
Hmm.
but we can assume very neglected tactic that people could benefit from addressing.
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah. Image file names are important, every little
yep,
aspect, and that's what you're going to want to do. You do
yep,
that with every site, but it's of particular importance to drug sites because you have these restrictions or with
yep,
content, the process. Um,
yep.
and for me with alt text, it is tedious, but I'm a nerd. So it's like eating chips. I just like one after the other. And as you said, it's not uncommon to find a site that comes through with completely blank alt text, or like alt text that makes no sense. It doesn't relate to the image. So I've seen paragraphs in there. You should have
Yeah.
4 or 5 words. So essentially, yeah, you're going to want to scour the site, look at technical issues, look at everything you can do because every little bit helps.
Yeah. There's some of the stuff that we do and talk about is really hard. Keyword strategy is something that should be very strategic and audience focused. Schema, like we said before, it's a pretty technical language, but some of this low hanging
Right.
fruit, like alt text,
Hmm.
file names, it's easy stuff. And so, I think the advice to any marketer out there is, even if you're not doing real advanced SEO and digital marketing, knock off some of this low hanging fruit in your spare time because it can move the needle for you.
It's all
Well,
incremental.
Christopher, this has been really insightful.
Oh, yeah.
I I want to thank you for joining me, and especially with regard to AI, which we touched upon here today. Things are obviously going to continue to evolve and evolve rapidly. So I would envision you coming on here pretty often with me so that we could stay updated on all this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you're having me. I appreciate that. And yeah, AI is a super powerful tool, but it is a tool. We're learning how to use it. We'll work with it as it evolves,
Yeah,
and it's part of the future of advertising on the web.
sure is. All right, Christopher. Well, thanks. This was great.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Bill.